And our first speaker will be speaking on Behind the Journey, Understanding Your Ecosystem. And our speaker is Qaalfa Dibeehi. I think I may have pronounced it incorrectly last night, but it's Qaalfa Dibeehi, Vice President serving customer experience professionals for Forrester. Qaalfa is Vice President and Principal Consultant. He leads the customer experience consulting practice in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. He has authored 2 books on customer experience. One, Customer Experience, Future Trends and Insights, and the other one, Achieving Customer Experience Excellence. Please, let's give a round of applause for Qaalfa Dibeehi.
So I'm going to talk about Behind the Journey, and there's a couple of themes that we've heard today that I'm going to emphasize. One is about the journey itself, and 2 is about the emotion. And I think oftentimes we talk about emotion, we talk about how it's delivered, but oftentimes we don't really know what that looks like. So we can think about frustrated, happy, irritated, sad, but what does it look like in an actual experience, and how do we deliver it? So obviously I'll approach this from a high level, but hopefully I'll give you a little bit of a flavor. So this is our definition of customer experience, and again, there's a variety. I think some of you were in a workshop earlier, you've seen this. 2 points here. The experience is the perception that customers have. So it's the thing that lives in the customer's head. And the second thing, it's delivered by the whole organization. So in the panel, we just heard that variety of functions and partners and whoever have to play a role. And so that's kind of what this definition is saying. I would just like to point out that we're talking about this perception, the thing that lives in the customer's head, which is the experience. This perception, and I think Amanda just previously talked about this model. This is the model that she was talking about. The perception, the experience, the thing that lives in the customer's head is formed along these 3 dimensions. Effectiveness, you have the basic product or service. It's the thing, the reason the customer will buy, they're looking for, that sort of a thing. Ease is the how easy or how difficult do you make it for customers to get to that value. Do they have to click 15 clicks, 10 clicks, 5 clicks, 4 clicks? Do they have to go to the store, register, do this, that, and the other? So that's the concept. Those 2 together, you can deliver customer satisfaction. You can have very satisfied customers if you deliver effectiveness and ease. But if you want loyalty, you have to include the 3rd E. So you don't get loyalty just by effectiveness and ease. So the point here is this emotion. So I'm going to focus a bit on the emotion. Although I'm focused on it, I'm definitely not saying only focus on emotion. If you only focus on emotion, then you are a scam artist. That's not what I'm talking about. So you have to do all 3. But the opportunity, the new space, is emotion. That's the thing that we haven't quite figured out, or we're figuring out how to do it. So today I'm going to try to paint a quick and easy picture to help you think through what does emotion actually look like. Because, of course, this is not a question on a survey, as I'm saying. It's not the airport security, happy face, check-in. That's maybe a sign, a symptom of emotion, but that's not quite what I'm talking about. So, why do it? Well, here's just a little bit of evidence from Forrester, our own research, that kind of says, look, we have some positive emotions here, some positive sounding things. Yes, if you add more positive sounding things in your experience, you get some positive benefits. It's not all the same benefits. An interesting thing on the emotion is understanding what it is you want to deliver. And I think someone on the panel talked about needing to be deliberate about the emotion or emotions that we're wanting to have. So I point out that what we're really not talking about here is just saying we want to have a better experience. We kind of know that's going to be positive versus just negative. I would really push you to literally identify the emotion. And by the way, the emotion doesn't have to sound like the regular words we would normally use, like these. what it may sound like is, again, I was talking in my workshop, it could sound like South African. We want to have the most South African of South African experiences. Now, you have to define what that is, but you could probably come up with a picture, South African versus English. I think the comedian we had last night, we're kind of making some clear distinctions between maybe Afrikaans and something else, and I think this is all over the world. We worked with a company who wanted to be the most Swiss insurer of insurers. Two Swiss insurers, one wanted to be very global, seen as very global, the other one wanted to be very Swiss. And then the question becomes, well, in Switzerland, you have French Swiss, German Swiss, Italian Swiss. So what is it to be Swiss? And how do we deliver an experience? And that's the thing that you would kind of look at your journey or the journey your customers on and think about, how do we inject Swissness into that culture, into that journey. So to make a long story short, of course we want to infuse interactions with the human touch. So we had the question earlier about technology and human. Absolutely, the starting point is human. People drive all of this. Even if you're a digital pure play, it's people that drive all of this. And as I was saying in the workshop earlier, if your business makes money because people choose you, and you lose money because people don't choose you, then ultimately what you have to connect with is people. Whether you do that through digital, whether you do that through a call center, whether you do that through retail, you actually have to connect with digital. And you have to design customer emotions at every level. So emotions is important. The 3 E's are important. The reason I'm focusing on emotions is because that's the one that we kind of don't know how to do. And sometimes we don't know how to project that. So I'm just going to go through a couple of examples here. And I'm going to focus on not literally what the experience is, but in order to deliver a different experience, what would have had to happen behind the scenes? Because I think as the panel talked about, and by the way, in Chantal's workshop, Brand Love, she had a workshop on journey mapping, it's the same kind of thing. So you hear these themes coming out quite a bit. So here's the first example. Show of hands. How many people love to give blood? Okay? How many people love the experience of giving blood? Exactly. Now, as we understand the benefit of giving blood, we understand there's a need, and some of us are more altruistic than others, and we do it. So I'm not asking who actually donates blood. But this is an experience that people will go through because, again, we understand the benefit. And if there's a crisis, people tend to do it. But this is not an experience most people are just drawn to live. It's not that kind of experience. So when you start thinking about happy, joyful, ecstatic, it's kind of difficult to think about that in the way most of these experiences happen. But there is a hospital system in Scandinavia that has thought about this because obviously to get more people to donate blood is a hugely great thing. Not all people are altruistic, but those people that are, if we could develop an experience that somehow connects emotionally with people. So, you know, the normal thing would be donate blood, it saves lives, that's really what we need, or there's a crisis going on, could you donate blood? You know, it's kind of, it gets to you or it doesn't get to you. So here's what the basic simplified journey of donating blood kind of looks like. I don't know if it's the same here, but more or less, you just walk in and give blood. You know, do you have any diseases? What's your profile? Blah, 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 blah. Do you have hepatitis? Do you have AIDS? Do you have this? Do you have that? There's a lot of things they might check. So there's a little quick medical history, a mini physical, blood pressure, so forth. We want to make sure that the actual donating the blood doesn't cause any problems. You donate the blood, that's a little dip in the experience because a lot of people don't like the needle, even if they like the idea of giving blood. And then usually because the sugar is low, you get a little snack. I don't know, is that more or less the same? Yeah, okay. So that's the basic experience. How low the donating blood dip is depends on the person. Some people are like petrified, and if they're so petrified, they don't donate blood, right? You just can't get over it. Most people can squeeze through, but then there's something. Now, what this experience, and you guys have heard of behavioral economics, right? Most of you, some of you. Well, there's a whole science that's called behavioral economics. A Nobel Prize was won. It's worthwhile to know, by the way, because if you're trying to prove, does this customer experience stuff work? This is the science, the real hard-nosed mathematical, like treatises of formula kind of science. Long story short, regular economics says we're rational beings. You get choices. You make rational decisions. Rational. Rational is front of mind. Behavioral economics says that would be great, except when we look at actual people, they don't actually behave like economics predicts they would behave. So what if we did the opposite? What if we looked at people's behavior first and then try to figure out formulas which match the behavior? That's really what behavioral, so it starts off with psychological experiments and then gets to the math. Regular economics does the math and then says, yeah, that kind of fits what people do. So at any rate, there's a rule in behavioral economics which is called PEAK, P-E-A-K, end rule, which basically says in the experience, the most important parts, the thing we heard in the panel talk about the memory that lives, the thing which drives this memory, the thing that drives our perception, the experience, is the peak, whether it's the highest point or the lowest point, wherever it occurs, and the end of the experience. So we're looking at this experience. The peak is at blood donation. In this case, it's a low point, not good for an experience. And the end is kind of neutral and bland. That little cookie, cupcake is not powerful enough. If you got $100,000 at the end of this experience, that would be a different end. But this end is kind of weak. So you got a negative drag in this experience. Question, can we create a different experience? We have to use needles so far. We don't have Wi-Fi blood donation yet. But at some point, we can get there. So the question was, can we design it? And they actually did it. And after you see it, and by the way, we're in a digital age, this makes it possible. So what do? They take your blood. You walk away. 2 months later, or whatever the time frame is, you get a text message that says, Mr. So-and-so, you have just saved a life. Your blood has just gone to such and such. I mean, not giving the details of the person, but you know that the blood you have donated has just saved a life, which connects directly to the reason most people donate blood. The change in the emotional experience that this simple thing does, and reminding you to go back and, yep, I want more of that, that is a huge change. Huge change. Not possible 20 years ago, possible now. Do most blood donation centers think of it now? Because of this place, they probably will. This will become normal as people catch on to this. But this has changed entirely the feel of that experience, what it means to you. You know that it's happened. You start to believe, you trust that it's going on. This is the same thing that you see now with people who give, they donate their organs, and they meet the person who now is kind of carrying my child's heart, lung, liver. You see that it's visceral. This visceral thing is the emotional experience. Now, the text message is not an emotion. The fact that they have the technology does not mean you get this experience. The only way you get this experience is to think, let's think through the experience that people actually live. What is it that a customer would want, would expect? What would make this great? There can be other things you can do with this, by the way, but this is at the starting point. This is just on the beginning level of what we mean by injecting emotion into the experience. So this is an easy one based on what it is now. So you kind of see this emotion. Let's take one. I'm going to take a little bit of a quiz, and I want you to think through. I'm going to, right now, I think yesterday there was a joke that, Chantal, you have a background in being a magician. It was a mathematician, but I'm going to bend time. I'm going to bend time right now, and you're going to bend time with me. Imagine this. You're a company, you provide roadside assistance. So, your car breaks down, you have a flat tire, they come and fix your tire. So in this example, the process works 100%. The guy shows up in 30 minutes. It's the same guy. He uses the same tools. Every single time, it's the same guy, the same truck, the same tools. The process works. Inside the company, SLA, 100%. We are on time. In fact, we're ahead of time. We said we would get there in an hour, but we got there in 30 minutes. pat on the back, right? This is a pat on the back situation. We're 100% on time. So that stays the same. The process stays the same. That's a key point. The process stays the same. First situation, you're at work. You were going to go down to the car park, go for lunch. You get there, there's a flat tire. This is not your best day, correct? Nobody wants a flat tire. But you're at work. You call the company, 30 minutes, they come and fix it. Okay, you couldn't go out to lunch that day, but you are happy you have the service. You go back to your air-conditioned office. You carry on with your day, right? So in the scale of things, not your best day, because who wants a flat tire, but you're happy you have the service. 30 minutes, it was fixed. You could have gone out for a quick lunch, but you decided to stay in the office. Situation 1, 30 minutes. You rate this company, decent. I'm satisfied. I got the service, I paid for it, it was there. Great, it's good, okay? We're here, correct? Everyone with me? Okay. Next situation. Same car, you're outside somewhere, it's raining, pouring down rain. Now my question, the guy shows up in 30 minutes, fixes the car, the same thing. But question, is this 30 minutes the exact same 30 minutes as before? We've got a little bit longer. If you're here, maybe, there's businesses around, so, it's not the end of the world. You kind of live through it. Now, the guy shows up, SLA-wise, we are covered. We're still on 100% internal KPI metrics to get my bonus thing going, 15 cars I can clean in a day. I'm good, right? That's all good. But from a customer's point of view, okay, I'm kind of still understanding, I'm in the realm of, I don't blame this company. They got there in 30 minutes. I'm still okay, right? More or less. Next situation. You're in a desert. It's boiling hot. This 30 minutes is starting to be different now, right? Now, the question is, do you, as a customer, blame the company? Probably no. So this is not about, I will never work with this company. We're not at that level yet. But my experience is changing. Question, you're inside the company. Yep, I show up in 30 minutes. We're super happy. I get there, I'm soaked. I was going to an interview, whatever, right? I'm not necessarily angry at the company. But if I believe, and if I start to interpret that 30 minutes like longer than 30 minutes, and I think that you didn't do what you're supposed to do, but you can prove that you did what you're supposed to do, who wins? What am I going to use if I'm up for renewal? This is where it starts to play. And I'm not saying this is all interpretation from a customer's point of view. Another question that generally comes up is this. The company, inside the company hat on, in headquarters, air conditioning, all that, the company would say, we are not responsible for where you have a flat tire. And that's true, correct? The real question becomes, even though we are not responsible, could we think about it? And if we can think about it, then we have a strategic decision of whether we want to do something or not. If we never think about it, then there's no way. And this is really the catch. Do I have to send a text because you donated blood? No. Do I have to, and what could you do in this situation? Just logical. You could bring water. CFO, we want to put water on the trucks. You want to put a refrigerator and a water on every truck in our entire, no. We only have 10 trucks in the desert region. We only need the water on the desert trucks. We only need the water in those trucks. It's going to cost us all over whatever it costs, a little minor. Is this a big problem? Well, no customers literally said we should have, well, actually we do have a couple of comments, blah, blah, blah. It goes on, that's the kind of discussion you'd have. So you don't always have to have big, gigantic capital expenditures to make a difference in an experience. Okay, that's situation number, I think it was 3. Here's another one. You're in that side of town. It's late at night. Guys hanging out of the corner over there. This 30 minutes is starting to get longer now because you're starting to think, what can I do? Now, here, the interesting thing is, what could the company do in this situation? We're in the age of digital. There's lots of possibilities of things. I might know where you are. I might know there's a diner around the corner. I might know this. I might say, some people have suggested, well, the agent could stay on the phone. They could. CFO, that's too expensive. That would mean we have to hire lots more agents. So we're not going to do that. It's a good idea, but we're not going to do that. But maybe because we have graded areas, it's Google Maps, blah, blah, blah. We know this is a super high crime area. Every 5 minutes, we'll just give a call back. You okay? Everything all right? Blah, 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 this, that, and the other. If it's not a super high crime area, every 10 minutes, I give a call back. You're okay? You're all right? Such and such. If it's systems, maybe it's easy to just kind of have a reminder thing that goes on. High crime area, call back every 5 minutes. So many possibilities if you do journey mapping as we were describing earlier. You can think about possibilities. And once you open people up to these possibilities, so many options that you can do or choose not to do. I am not saying just because you can do it, you should do it. Customer experience is not about doing whatever it takes to make a customer happy. Not what customer experience is. It's about understanding the experience that customers go through and then figuring out what you want to do with those. But to be able to think about it, you got to think about it. Okay, final situation. Take any of the previous situations and add your 3 kids. Again, the company does not have to think about any of this because they're not responsible where you have the flat tire. Real customer experience just says, let's think about this from the customer's perspective. If you know about your customers and you know your average customer has kids and you know your average customer drives their school moms, school dads, whatever, then, you have a lot of high-value customers in the desert region with school. It's so many things you can do with that kind of information and knowledge to start thinking about what could we do. We only have small budget, so think about small budget things. Don't think about big budget. I mean, it's very simple, but you got to have the thought. That's the real starting point for customer experience. Okay, one more example. This is one from Charter Communications. They do Wi-Fi, other kinds of things. And they have these technicians which will come out to your home or business, and they will install items. This is a real case. This company was having tremendous complaints about these technicians. Your technicians don't know anything. They've trained these guys. Why do you hire such imbeciles? So on and so forth, right? So they had this big problem. And they did some very simplified journey mapping, or we did some journey mapping. And here it is. So you order the equipment through the sales rep. This is a business, by the way, B2B side. The tech arrives to install this fancy equipment. And that's great. They arrive on time. The installation fails. I'm trying to connect it. Thing fails. You say, hey, tech, can you fix this thing? It was like, nah, what can I do? So, okay, that's an idiot tech sending it out for this basic equipment. You call the call center. Look, I'm complaining. You guys are not fixing this. I just bought this thing. Fix it. And then you're told there's no solution by the contact center. So you just spent all this money. So you can kind of see this is not a great experience, correct? This was an average kind of experience that they were having. They knew this, and they even knew what the problem was. They had a problem, and I'll get to that in just as we go through it. Okay, so that's what the customer sees. So the customer is complaining about the technician, the customer is complaining about the call center rep, the customer is complaining about the equipment, the customer is complaining about all the stuff that they see. Then we draw this line of visibility. Let's talk about the stuff that the customer does not see. So this is inside headquarters now. Okay, so first thing, you order the stuff. The sales rep gets the commission, so all this commission stuff works. The compensation policy works. We've hired great salespeople, finances delivering the bonuses and so forth. Check, 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 check. All good, right? Number 2, tech arrives and installs. The scheduling system worked perfectly. The tech arrives on time. Great. Installation fails. Well, the reason is the tech gets there. You have this new equipment. You have this other piece of equipment that we have to connect it to. The tech is prevented from touching any of your other equipment because if I touch it and it breaks, you can say, we owe you. Legal has said, do not touch any other equipment. If you touch it and it breaks, it's come out of your paycheck. So the tech is like, I see if I just switch that, I could work, but I'm not touching it. Okay? Now, this company has never been sued for touching other people's equipment. Legal is happy, correct? Legal is like going to CFO. We have never been sued. All right, next point. Customer service, you call the CRM system. The agent is kind of looking at it saying, yes, I see a tech was delivered. I see you bought equipment X9-1-P. Yeah, but it doesn't work. Okay, let me look at the manual. Did you try cutting it on? It doesn't work. I can't help you, okay? Then you get to the bit, there's no solution. Third party, the agent cannot tell you any advice about your other equipment, because if you take my advice and you use your equipment and you break it, we get sued. So legal has prevented us from getting sued. So here we are. Question, did these department heads and people, did they say, did this thing work the way we designed it? So did sales, whoever is responsible for the sales, did they say, my system works? Yes. Scheduling system, tech, IT? Yes. Third party, legal? Yep. CRM? Yep. So everybody is basically saying, pat on the back. My SLA, my KPI is doing okay, pat on the back. It's all working beautifully at headquarters, correct? Okay, let's answer the same question. Was the customer's expectations met? When you bought the thing and the tech arrived, it was all good. I'm happy, I bought it, that's why I selected you guys. Of course, the installation fails, not so good. We're at a peak now, a low peak, correct? Just like the blood thing, low peak. This one is really low. I just bought something new, it doesn't work, we're really low here. Customer service, the guy knew the situation is good, but ultimately didn't give me any help. So depends on how you measure it. And then finally, there's no solution. So this is a peak, low, end, low experience. This is like the worst combination of all possible things. And in this case, potentially, I will never buy another piece of equipment from that company again. And that was their problem. Now, when you ask customer service tech to fix this problem, they cannot fix this problem. The only people who can really fix this problem is legal. That's the people who can fix it. Legal is the one department that will never show up to a CX customer something event. Right? So, we have a problem. So all this cross-functional, how do you get people in together, this is the language that basic people across the organization, even legal, need to be able to speak. They don't need to know all the intricacies of all the bits in this journey map, the simplified map. But they need to know when they make a decision, it impacts this. They need to at least be thinking about it. It doesn't mean they wouldn't have this policy, but it does mean when the customer complaints start to come back in, when customer defection starts to go up, they're not like, so what are you guys going to do about it? Everyone can start just like, you know, it's legal. And they say, it's true. We made the call. We don't want to get sued. And for a strategic decision, the business can say, yeah, okay, that's good. We don't want to get sued. That's, if the business decides and you take that risk, that is okay. That is your business strategic right to do that. If, on the other hand, you don't like defection, legal, is there, you know, can we just, a couple parameters, if you see that equipment and you see the thing and you say these things and you get the customer to sign this, we give the text a little piece of paper, little whatever. It's a lot of possibilities. But this is the real problem. And in fact, there's an 80-20 rule in customer experience. This is my 80-20 rule. 80% of the problems that customers complain about up above the line of visibility are caused by decisions made below the line of visibility. So if you're doing customer experience, journey mapping, design thinking, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff with all the usual suspects, call center shows up, retail shows up, maybe marketing shows up, brand shows up, all these kind of people show up, but finance, legal, purchasing, compliance, risk management, whoever else you can think of, engineering, operations, logistics, if they don't show up, expect this 80-20 thing all over the place. Okay. So this is the final guidelines around journey mapping. You heard this already in the panel, and I think Chantal talked about this earlier. Start with the persona. I don't have time to really go into what a persona is. Some of you probably say you have personas, and I would challenge many of you whether you really have them. The idea of a persona is that you understand the person, not how they use your business, but do you understand how they approach life? What do they have going on in their life? What's important to them? How do they make those decisions about life? Not how they buy your insurance, how they purchase an airline ticket. It's how do they approach life, the full person. That's the persona. Number 2, dig deep into the ecosystem. That's the blue bit here, this operational ecosystem. This is legal and finance thing we saw in the previous thing. So when you show the journey, like what are some of the key things? And again, this is not process mapping. You don't have to literally link every single possible decision and key things that are driving that experience. So that dig deep into the operational ecosystem, connect it to the journey. Use an emotional lens. So if you use this emotional lens, think about this journey. Think about, we are fixing tires out there. Let's go through a couple of scenarios. Let's talk about what this looks like. Have legal think about that emotional lens and how somehow come to grips with it. I think if you present this to people, they are customers. This is not a complex thing. This is not even a business case. This is just coming to grips with some of these decisions they're being made. And I think I have not run across a company where basic, simple presentation, nice story, like we kind of presented there, where they can't get it. After they've gotten that story bit, that's when I usually then present a case. In my experience, I have never seen a company where you present a business case up front to the CFO. Here's the case, and they react. I've never seen that happen. The only thing I've ever seen happen is that they get the story, like, okay, I see what you're saying about this desert thing and the rain, and I got that story. Now you give them the evidence, and they say, okay, so it might mean this much for us. They're willing to accept that evidence. Without that story, the only thing I've ever seen happen is you present it, and they say, yeah, I understand that, but that's not really like our customers. You made this assumption, that's not right. This doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. They just start picking apart the case because the case isn't really what they're used to. So that emotional lens is important. And fourth, which is, in a sense, one of the most important things here, many people who do journey mapping think about the map. We're going to create this map to work with people. It's super fancy, very analytic, whatever style of map you have. More important than the map is the journey mapping. Journey mapping is more important than the map. Getting people engaged, doing the mapping is more important than the output of the map. It's going through that thinking exercise, rehearsing that mental muscle, and involving those non-suspects, non-usual suspects in the process is the key. And with that, I leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A very, very good presentation. Thank you. So I think in essence, be thoughtful, be deliberate, and present the story on behalf of the customer that shows how your company is being effective, doing it with ease, and bringing the emotion that the customer wants us to bring to their experience. Thank you very much.